calling the meeting to order. Okay, so welcome to special meeting for the City of Hollister. Can we, Councilman Morales, do you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, City Clerk, can we do roll call?
Vice Mayor Pache,
Present.
Councilmember Resendez,
Here.
Councilmember Morales, Councilmember DeAnder,
Here.
Mayor Stevens.
Here. Okay, so we are here for Council Business 4.1 Fire Protection Services Contract Report. So can we have the staff report, please?
Okay, I'm going to bring up the presentation in just a moment. Okay, so thank you. I'm going to start with just a brief timeline, a little bit of a recap from the last meeting, in case folks weren't here at the last meeting. So since 2013, Hollister's provided fire protection services via contract to the County of San Benito and the City of San Juan. Since the inception of these contracts, they were renegotiated, so there's 3 agreements in total, with the last 2 in 2016 and the current one that we're operating under in 2019. On May 6th, staff provided a presentation regarding the fire services contract at the request of the Hollister City Council. And so that was requested originally as part of the fiscal year 23-24 budget. And so we worked that through and brought it back on May 6th. On June 4th, the City Council expressed the intent to issue a notice of termination regarding these contracts to both the county and San Juan. June 18th, we brought that back, and that received approval to issue the notices. And then a few days later, on the 20th, those were issued, which adjusted the termination date from December 31st of 25 to March 17th of 2025. And so the documents formally informed the respective agencies of the intention to terminate. However, the notices also indicated that the city was willing to work with the agencies in lieu of termination. The city staff then worked with the staff from both agencies to begin the work on renegotiating the terms of the contracts. On January 7th of 2025, the City Council created an ad hoc committee to negotiate the contracts and appointed Mayor Stevens and Councilmember Resendez to serve on this committee. Then 2 weeks later, on the 21st, the council directed the city manager to rescind both of those agreements, or those notices, excuse me. And by rescinding those notices, the contracts are now set to expire on their original expiration date of December 31st of 2025. And since these current contracts have provisions to extend an additional calendar year if the contracts are not terminated per the terms, they would need to agree to an amendment or issue a 270 to prevent them from rolling over an additional year. I have had some questions. If it were to roll over, there's nothing to stop. Let's say it rolled over and 3 weeks later you issue a 270 notice. Like, it's not a finality moment, but in order to, I brought that back so you would be aware of the potential of that contract rolling over. It's my role to tell you if a contract is going to roll over. If it is to roll over, you can still negotiate and you can still issue a 270. Concurrently to the negotiations, the 3 jurisdictions have partnered to conduct a fire district feasibility study with the City of San Juan serving as lead. The city issued a request for proposals for the study and recently awarded the contract to Baker Tilly. Last week, the meeting of the jurisdiction staff, kind of just a check-in with the contractor, meet and greet meeting, was held, and it will be coming to the Fire Protection Advisory meeting to start that feasibility process on the 27th. And so the project will be overseen by the committee, which is comprised of 2 elected officials from each of the 3 jurisdictions. Since the formation of the ad hoc committee, negotiations have been underway. As a result of those negotiations, the ad hoc committee finalized a set of proposed terms for both the county and San Juan. This Monday, on the 17th, these amendments were presented to the City Council, and approval to accept the proposed terms was approved via consensus. So as for the proposed terms, and I've summarized here from the amendment, would be to extend the agreement from December 31st of 25 to June 30th of 28. The termination clause updated to only allow for termination of lack of payment. Payment schedule aligned with the fiscal year instead of the calendar year. And this is for the county. And for the fiscal year of 24-25, the annual rate for fire services shall be increased by 1.1 million to a new rate of 3.37 million for this current fiscal year. So that would basically up the amount for this year, and then we would go back and back bill on the next time we invoice after it was signed to be brought up whole, and then we would go forward from there. Beginning in next fiscal year, an annual escalator of 3% would be applied to the previous year's rate. And of that 1.1, 214,000 of that would be allocated for the reimbursement of annual lease payments for 3 pieces of equipment that are listed here. Those leases, it's one lease that has the vehicles, ends February 25th of 2031. And upon completion of the lease, the county would be able to purchase those pieces of equipment for $1. Additionally, the county can reimburse the city for up to $400,000 for eligible expenses included in the county's current fire impact fee study, incurred from the beginning of the term of the contract through February 28th. We did speak about what the eligible expenses could be. They would have to be items that were listed in the county's most current fee study. And then we would work with them to seek reimbursement for any purchases that we had that would qualify under that. Those dollars are collected by the county through impact fees that developers pay when they're building in the county. And so then those fees would be passed to us for expenses that we may have incurred. And then any ownership of equipment that is reimbursed through this provision would be transferred to the county and would be operated and maintained by the city. And then we would be working with SCR 911 to reimburse to go through the ambulance costs or the ambulance 911 costs and any costs that may have been billed to the city since the beginning of this contract term would be reimbursed. We're still working with SCR 911, so there's not a guarantee that they charged us anything in there. They've had some work that they're doing to clarify the ambulatory costs. So we wanted to have something in there that would cover that. The county and the city shall collaborate with 911, the 911 dispatch center, to develop and implement protocols that effectively prioritize emergency service calls within the county. These protocols aim to reduce unnecessary public service calls, false alarms, and long-distance resource dispatches. There's already a matrix in place. The parties would work together to review that. And then in non-exigent circumstances, as determined by the dispatch protocols, EMS ambulances may be dispatched without accompanying firefighting resources. So we would work together through the fire chief to look and work with 911 on how all of those calls are dispatched. That is something that's in here, and the chief can speak to that if you have questions on that. I think we touched on that last time. The city shall bill the county quarterly per the city's current fee schedule for time worked related to development review and inspections, So just ensuring, we just went through a fee study process. Our new fees go into effect April 7th, and just ensuring that we get reimbursed for our fee schedule regardless of what the county collects. So if the county's collecting for, say, let's say $100 for a fee, but our fee schedule is $150, we would bill $150. The county's looking at redoing their fee schedule currently. The county designated engine at Station 3 to provide no less than a 2-person response to all incidents, and the staffing levels within the city of Hollister and any other applicable jurisdiction, unless otherwise contracted, would be at the discretion of the city. And then in the sole discretion of the city, may implement a brownout of Station 3, and that would not constitute a breach of agreement or a reduction of any compensation under the agreement. So the County of San Benito had a meeting Tuesday. We met Monday, they met Tuesday, to review the proposed terms. And at that meeting, they gave their staff direction to return to legal, do a review, and returned amendment number 1 for review and possible approval. Yesterday, they met again, and to consider amendment number 1, they voted to accept all of the terms except with proposing one change, and that change would be to remove the brownout language for Station 3. So now I'll take a step through and go through the San Juan Bautista proposed terms. So again, extending the term through June 30th of 2028. Termination clause, again, updated for only for lack of payment, tweaking the payment schedule to align fiscal year versus calendar year. And then to provide a new an increase in the annual rate of $150,000 to a new rate of $418,279, and then an annual escalator of 11% being applied to the previous year's rate. Additionally, there was language in there basically about the facility agreement that would be removed. There was language in there that we would be working to, when it was originally signed, and negotiate a lease. That lease was not approved, so we're taking that language out of there. We were paying the lease up until about January of 24, and also pay the utilities for that station. And then the designated engine at San Juan would provide no less than a 2-person response to all incidents. And again, staffing levels within the city and any other applicable jurisdiction, unless otherwise contracted, would be determined at the sole discretion of the city. So right now, the way the current contracts are written, they speak to, the county's contract says there will be a minimum of 2 per engine at the county station, Station 3. And then the county says a minimum of 2 at San Juan. You look at the San Juan contract, it says a minimum of 2 in the county, and it says a minimum of 3 in San Juan. So there's been some confusion there. Ultimately, our contract with San Juan says a minimum of 3. So they met Tuesday evening, the 18th, and reviewed and discussed the proposed amendment terms. They voted to reject the proposed amendment, and then approved the following items: that their negotiation ad hoc committee hold negotiations with both Hollister and the county's negotiation committees that they formed, and include the city of Hollister's fire chief, the interim city manager of San Juan, and the city manager of Hollister in these negotiations. They did not mention the interim CAO, but I'm sure that that would be something that they probably wouldn't be opposed to, but I wrote it exactly how the motion was passed. And then they opposed the 2-0 staffing at the San Juan Bautista Fire Station. So next steps. So upon reviewing that information and those meetings taking place, the ad hoc committee requested the discussion regarding the responses from both the county and San Juan, and to provide additional available options. And then staff would receive direction this evening regarding those contracts. And so, as I've done with most any other of our items, my job is to bring options, we discuss, and then we get direction. So I may present options, I'll walk through them, and then I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. So option A would be to accept the county's proposed terms and continue to negotiate with San Juan. Now, as I've mentioned in the past, we have not brought when San Juan had reached an agreement on one of the amendments, it has been said all along, we'll bring both amendments at the same time. They need to come together. We would be the last to sign. So that's why I don't have an agreement this evening with the county, even though they voted to bring one forward. Proceed forward with San Juan Batista's March 18th proposal. So I went over what they had asked for. That is an option that you could take. You could prepare new individual proposed terms for a minimum of 3-0 staffing at stations 3 and 4, including the removal of the city's ability to brown out Station 3. So with that idea, you're going back and you're proposing terms to each party, similar to how you've done in the past. We would go back and work as a team to say, this is what we would need to make that happen, and then we would have those negotiations, right? So that would be new terms. Option D would be minimum staffing of 3 at the stations. The city of Hollister to prepare a set of proposed terms that treat the county and the city of San Juan Batista as one partner. So one comprehensive price and set of terms. And those terms be prepared in partnership with the negotiations ad hoc, the fire chief, the fire union president, and the city management. And then the county and city of San Juan would work together to develop a partnership to meet the proposed terms that we ask of them. So the idea would be, if this is what you're looking for, this is what it would cost, and we would present that to the county and San Juan, and then they would work together to figure out how they would meet those terms. Option E is similar. So the first 5 bullet points are the same, except each agency to provide the city of Hollister with a one-time payment for fiscal year 24-25 within 30 days. This compensates the city of Hollister for financial impacts during the negotiation process. So as you may remember, we issued the 270-day notice in June of 2014 after having discussions. Those negotiations, as you know, had been stalled, had gone back and forth. All the meanwhile, we are still providing that service of minimum of, although not contracted, a minimum of 3 all the way across the board. San Juan is contracted there, but not the county. And we continue to provide those. But every day that negotiations continue on, we are still providing those services. So what this is asking for is we'll work to develop those terms, just as mentioned. We'll ask for reimbursement for this year and present those terms as well. Option F, and as I said, listing all options, would be to issue the 270 to both parties and focus on the city of Hollister. So considerations for any of the proposed options would be, if you do any of these, do you issue a 270-day notice alongside of it? And if you do you include a 90-day provision to complete negotiations? As you can see, we issued a 270-day notice in June, and we have already passed the 270-day period. We're right back here at the same place and have continued providing that same level of service, and we're almost through another fiscal year. Do you look at retroactivity for compensation? Or you look at one-time payments to conduct the new negotiations, and that compensates the city of Hollister for the financial impacts that we have faced during the negotiation process. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with a few questions, and I'll check in with the council. So can you just let us all know, as a city, have we budgeted, so the budget that we have now, or the plan for our budget coming forward, have we budgeted for our fire services budget for the city for 3 per truck?
Are you saying for the current year, or what we're working to bring to you next?
What we anticipate we could do for next fiscal year?
So what all the departments are doing right now is giving proposals that show a 10% reduction. what has happened in the past that I had mentioned at one of our budget meetings is I had asked all departments in probably the beginning of Q2 to give me 10% proposals then, and we made some adjustments at that point. The fire department was not asked to do that. So all the other departments already have seen reductions. The fire department was not asked to do that. When
Okay.
proposals are brought forward, then we look at them in totality and make decisions once we look at it in totality. So it doesn't mean an automatic 10 all the way across the board, but you're looking at proposals from each of the department head at how they would propose to get there.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it is our goal to remain there.
Okay, that was our goal. Our goal has been to
Absolutely.
remain at 3. Okay, and so if we were to accept a 2 on 1, then I guess in essence, we would be absorbing the cost of that third person if we wanted to remain at 3. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and is that what we've been doing basically all along? Because
So-
in the county contract, there's a 2 minimum, but we've been having 3, so that third person, that cost has been absorbed by the city of Hollister?
If you're strictly looking at contracts, then yes, we would have been within the terms of the contract at the airport station
Uh-huh.
to have 2 on an engine per that contract.
Okay,
The city has staffed them at 3 for the variety of reasons you've heard at the last meeting and many of the other meetings and from the fire chief's report out.
okay, so we've essentially absorbed that third person for that contract.
Correct. So currently under this fiscal year, we have a fire budget of $16.3 million, basically 2.28 million from the county, which is 14%, 268,000 from the from San Juan, which is 1.7%.
Okay, and then for the San Juan Bautista contract, at the proposed level of 400,000, how many firemen does that pay for? How many positions does that pay for?
At the current rate that the council proposed, which if I pull it back up was about 460 or so, you would be at all in probably 1.5 with all other costs. You know, it's not just, it's the equipment, it's the gear. To be at 3, that's essentially 9 staff. So that's where we're looking here is one of the proposals is, here is the cost overall. The county and San Juan are symbiotic. So here's the cost overall.
Right.
Because they're serving we're serving the county out of the San Juan station, it's a mutual benefit all the way
Right.
around.
Okay.
And then the stations also, you know, it should be said, the stations also benefit the response to the city of Hollister as well, because then you have more available resources if something happens in town.
Okay. Okay, I mean, and the reason that I'm asking these questions is because I've had different conversations with different people, including the president of the firefighters union, Josh Pizzetta, and we were talking about this idea of, you know, how we can move forward with being able to keep the 3, and essentially it just really comes down to the funding of it, and if we have money to cover that, we will cover it. If we can't, if we don't, then we can't. That's like kind of the basics. So if we are getting from the majority of, from the other contracts, enough to pay for only 2, then we would essentially be absorbing that third person as a city, if we wanted to keep them at that third person, right?
Correct.
We would be, okay, so what I'm thinking is that if we move forward with this idea of 3, and we as a city cover our portion and are able to cover that for the 3 person, the expectation should be that the others, our partners, that should cover the cost at that same level for the share that of their services. That's sort of what I'm thinking. And it's not a question. I'm just like, that's just where I'm thinking. That's why I was asking those questions. And then can you explain again that one point that you said about ensuring that during the negotiation period that there is some compensation Can you explain that piece of your options again?
So one of the options, that you could consider is, and just for illustrative purposes, let's say these are the terms that the group that we talked about puts together. You may say, in order to have these negotiations, let's talk about, a one-time payment for this last fiscal year. Because ultimately, the fiscal year we're in right now, you issued the 270s back, well, the previous council issued the 270s in June because we had a revenue problem. That was your budget presentation in fiscal year 24-25 was, yes, expenditures need to be tightened, but we have a revenue problem as well. Your budget and fiscal policies say you will be reimbursed for the cost of providing services. That's why we do a fee schedule. We just did a giant fee study to figure out how much it should cost at animal control and how much it should cost at all these other areas. You go through that process. And that's what we had done when we slid the first proposed terms over. We went through that and figured out what we thought was fair. It was still generous. It wasn't the full amount that we had thought. We actually came down when we said 3.8 originally. And that's that idea. So if you think about it under a fee study, you just went through a big process where we approved 20 pages of fees. Some of them hadn't been approved since the 90s. And that was part of the revenue strategy. We're a business. And that's why we had that whole conversation of, if it cost $80 to do something, we should be charging that 80, not 10. Or if it's something that, is something, sometimes we'll have a senior discount or that type of thing. But this is a fee for service, and your fiscal and budget policies, and we mentioned that the first time, call for, a collection back of what it costs. So that's where that was based in when we did the original terms that were placed forward.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and the reason that I'm asking these questions is because we know that we are in a really tight budget period. And the problem has been that we have absorbed some of these costs that have been related to the share of our partners. And what I want to make sure moving forward, because I would be willing to support the 3-person truck because I think that's important. It's part of what we're hearing from our firefighters, that they need to be the safest. And of course, more people is better always. However, we cannot cover the costs for our partners for that level of staffing. So if we can all agree and we all are willing to pay our fair share, then I think that's a good place to go. I think we can agree to do that if we cover the portions that are for the service of the city of Hollister and commit to that. But then we need our partners to come along. So it's going to be important that our partners agree with that, and then everybody has to be at the table and agree on the same level, because we can't have one contract that says 2 and one that says 3, and then we're doing something different. We have to have the same staffing model. So those are just my comments, because ultimately it has to get paid for. We can't continue to pay for the contract as it exists now. There's just no way we can do that. We will be in the red and maybe bankrupt in less than 2 years. We just can't continue to do that. So we have to make sure that the service that we're providing is fully paid for by the contract, through the contract, and then we cover our own costs for sure, and they cover the part that is related to their service, because we can't absorb those costs anymore. Go ahead.
And I think one of the options that we had in there was working with the fire chief, our ad hoc, city management, finance, fire union president, to go through that process, because there are mutual benefits by us having a larger network. And so, we're cognizant of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are mutual benefits, and there are
Absolutely.
worries that when you have a larger group that it's going to take longer. So I think it's going to be important that as we do this, that we consider that as well, right? We have to be really focused, and I think having some really solid direction of how we're going to move forward can help that process, right?
Mhm.
That's what I'm thinking. So anyway, I appreciate what's on the options. Okay, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to open it up to others. Councilmember Resendez, you have a question? Okay.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Stevens. Thank you, City Manager. I do have a couple questions, and you might have already answered these, but I just want to reframe it and ask them again so that the public can hear it, our partners can hear it, and our employees can hear it. So number one, would you consider the city of Hollister to be in good financial health, Mr. City Manager?
No.
Okay. Are we currently, or have we been subsidizing the city of San Juan Bautista and the county for fire services?
I believe we have been.
Okay. And then in the new contract that we sent over to San Juan Bautista and the county, are we still not subsidizing them?
It is my opinion that you're still subsidizing them, and that was a very, very generous offer.
I agree with you. Can we continue to sustain services moving forward by subsidizing San Juan Bautista and the county of San Benito for fire services?
No, and that's why we had proposed a 10% revenue reduction
Yeah.
and a 2.5%, or 2.5% revenue reduction and a 10% expenditure reduction, because I showed that the general fund balance would end low, and you've historically been leaning on the general fund balance, which is your reserves, to balance that budget. You can only lean on your savings account until your savings account runs dry, and I can't bring you a budget that depends on more that your saving account holds. It's just like your budget at home.
So what I'm hearing, and I've got a couple more questions, is that the city of Hollister, because of past policy decisions, is in financial trouble. Number one, let's get that straight. Number two, we have been providing fire services to the city of San Juan Bautista and the county at a discounted rate. We offered them a newer contract, still at a discounted rate, to try to get us through the next few years. And San Juan Bautista asked for another firefighter at their meeting. Did they ever, I heard them using profanity towards you, by the way, which was highly unprofessional. And the mayor actually doubled down on that. But did they ever offer to pay for that other firefighter that they were asking for at that meeting?
So at that meeting, it wasn't formal. There was a comment made, our chief talked about estimates, rough estimates
Sure.
of what that would cost. And there was a comment made like, well, if we throw in another $100,000 or something to that effect. But it wasn't a formal conversation on that. It wasn't a direction back to accept the agreement, but ask for a model at 3.0 that, with a funding proposal of 3.0.
And they could have said, go back to the city of Hollister, tell them this is what we're concerned about, let's have a conversation about it. But that was not the direction that they gave, according to your presentation, and I watched the meeting, by the way. And then the last thing I wanted to ask you, are we obligated to provide fire services for the citizens of the city of Hollister, California?
So I'm going to ask our legal to speak on that, and Rob, you could touch on that a little bit. And we did do a legal opinion on that and kind of walk through what that looks like.
So the city is actually not required to provide fire services to residents within the city. It's actually also provided under the government code with immunity for not providing those services and or providing inadequate services.
Okay, are we obligated? I think we are obligated to provide fire services to the citizens of Hollister, California, in my opinion.
Correct.
Are we obligated to provide fire services to the county or San Juan Bautista?
And can I interrupt? And
Sure.
Rob, maybe you can touch on how that response and payment would work,
Right.
because we got
So-
asked that at the county as well. And I think there's some clarity that needs to be provided to that.
So what would end up happening, however, is if the county, say, had their own fire department and they had to respond into the city to provide fire services, they would then bill the city for their response. And or if the state had to do the same, they likewise would bill the city for any type of response. As to your other question regarding whether the city of Hollister is required to provide those services to the county, they are not.
And then I heard Supervisor Kuro at the meeting say that they're not obligated to provide fire service for the county. So a county board supervisor said they're not obligated to provide fire services for the county. Is that true?
That is correct, and again, it would work similarly to how it would with the county responding into the city. The state would respond out to fires that did happen in the county and or other agencies nearby, Gilroy or other agencies, and then they would then bill the county for the provision of those services.
And I'm
And you would have extremely
Yeah.
slow response times. So
You-
y-
you
there's no way around just saying, well, we don't have to provide it, so, you know, it's free, right? I mean,
So
you're
you
going to
do-
pay for it.
So you have to.
And then I would just assume that the person providing the service to these neighboring jurisdictions is going to be the person determining the cost of that service.
That's correct.
Okay. That's my questions for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions on this side of Councilmember Pichet?
So I heard Councilmember Resendez mention that subsidy word with regard to, the city providing services to the county in San Juan Bautista. And I've heard some pretty large numbers being thrown around. There was a meeting not long ago where, Councilmember Morales threw out, I believe it was $11,000 a day. Just kind of a number you might have thrown around.
It was, based on the budget presentation, it was a little under $11,000, so it was 10,000 something
Per day,
per day, yes.
per day that the city is subsidizing county and
It's
San Juan
contributing
Bautista?
to the services that are not being reimbursed.
Okay, thank you for that. And I heard another number from the city manager.
If I may, and just to add some clarity to that, just kind of where that number came from. So when we provided, originally, when we had the original discussion, I was asked to crunch the numbers different ways. And what we did is we looked at the percentage of time on calls. And when we did that, we went off the 23-24 budget, which was, call it $14 million, just a couple $1,000s less. We then prorated out the time of calls and kind of worked backwards, and that delta was $4 million. And if you divide 4 million by 365, that was the per day figure. Now, granted, that was on a $14 million budget. That was on a different year of data. So each year the data could be different. There could be less calls to the county, more to the city. But that percentage, I mean, our budget is up to 16.3. Now, one time is 600,000 for the chassis payment of the tiller truck. So if you take that out of there, you know, that's kind of the rise in the budget was just over 10% this year. So that figure of 4 million and, you know, 10,000 a day and all of that, that was based on a $14 million budget. That's how long we've been talking about this.
So what would you say that figure is today?
So we would have to go back and crunch all the call time data, but it would, I mean, if you even look at, you know, there's different ways of doing it per call time. We've had suggestions of per capita. Part of that whole process, we added into the fire feasibility study because the feasibility study is going to give you a path forward on a district, different options for a district. We also added the ability to have them study how should this cost be shared if we don't go to a district. You know, the district has a lot of different moving parts, and ultimately the voters have to pass it. So what happens if the voters don't pass it, right? You can look at, I mean, even coming up with a per capita versus call time versus per call, you get different opinions on all of it, right? And that was the point of it, is let's take that off the table because everybody's pointing at each other saying, oh, no, I wouldn't do it that way. Don't do it that way, right? And let's have the experts tell us, do you do something each year where at budget time we look at the previous year and have some sort of formula and then we all agree to it? We do that with integrated waste, right? We sit down and we look at all the different, you know, funds that come in and the population and all of that, and then we split the costs. We just got our budget for integrated waste that I'll turn around and build into this year's budget. So we asked for that, right? You're not going to see a lot of discussion on that when other parties are getting an amazing deal, right? And so we'll let that keep going. So as we go through this process, we had asked and gotten permission, and it's in the contract. Let's look at how we study that as well. So then it takes all of the hurt feelings off the table, and we have some independent metrics. And who knows, folks may not agree with what comes out of that study, but at least what comes out of that study is independent and not, you know, coming from 3 different parties.
But it's somewhere between $10,000 and $11,000 a day. Just any way you slice it, it's costing us money to provide fire services
Yeah, I mean, you're at 16.3 million. County right now is paying 14%. San Juan's paying 1.7%. The proposed deals that both parties either flat out rejected or had concerns and amendments to would have, had they accepted them, moved that total to 21% county, 2.6% San Juan Batista. So you still would have been at 23.6% of the total budget for the entire program.
Would that have brought that figure down for city taxpayers?
Well, that's about 25%, so without pulling the calculator out, that'd probably bring that number down $2,500. Right, because if that number was based on 4 million, and this new offer was 1.25, so it's somewhere right in that range.
So we're still subsidizing the county in San Juan Batista for fire services. We're all getting a better deal because we've got a great team. They're providing services to a much greater area. So the city taxpayer is still subsidizing $7,000, $8,000, $8,500 per day to provide services for the county and to San Juan Batista.
Yeah, roughly. I mean, that's where I want to get to the study telling us how to calculate it, because then that becomes the agreed upon term rather than an opinion.
Okay.
But I think any way you slice it on a $16 million budget, for your partners to be paying 15.7% of that, I think it's a fair assumption to say that we are contributing much more to the size of the pie than our partners.
Okay. I had some concerns about that 0.6 number, like 0.6 fire personnel per 1,000 residents, and how dangerously thin that is. To Council Member Resendez's point, I don't know if Chief Golding could even speak to this, but if we did provide services just to the city of Hollister, I'd like to know if we could retain every fireman or woman that we've got, fire person. Could we keep them all and not provide 1,388 square miles of coverage and just, 9 square miles of the city? Could we keep all of our firefighters? And then where do you think that number might go? That 0.6 it would have to go up a little bit, even though most people live in the city.
So yeah, that number would go up. I don't have a calculator to run the numbers, but in answer to your original question, could we retain everybody? My proposal would be to retain everybody. As I've talked to most of you at one point or another, and just about anybody who talks to me, the city manager and I have talked about it, based upon the surrounding area, the county, San Juan Batista, what resources they have now or what they could realistically stand up if we didn't have the contract anymore. We would still need 4 engine companies to provide services just to us, or 4 companies. I would propose 3 engines and a truck. If there was a stout system around us, as has been pointed out over the years of what the county should have increased, what we should have had, I would say probably more in the line of 3 companies, but that's just not in place around us. So my recommendation would always be, as I think somebody pointed, I think maybe the mayor pointed out earlier, like more is better. That 0.6 that we have currently would jump up, but it would only jump up to like 0.7 and a half or 0.8. It's not going to jump up to that 1.5 to 1.8 that we should be at. So my recommendation, just like my recommendation at this point here, and I've made it clear to the city managers, my intention through this whole thing, once we sign these contracts, whatever the contract says, it's always going to be my intention to staff 4 engine companies with 3 personnel until I'm directed not to. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's where we sit, and everybody's heard me all week long talking about it in meetings, talking about it on the news, like we are at critical staffing levels. But what we could sustain, there's budget issues, and that's why the dollars and cents that we work out through these contracts are important. But I can't answer that question of whether we could retain everybody, because that's a much bigger, more complicated thing. There are some things, if we became just Hollister Fire and we're not providing services to the county, there would be some cost savings in some of these things, because if we're not driving as far on calls, we're not tearing up tires, we're not burning as much fuel, but the matrix of how much savings that is versus the cost, that's a much more extensive conversation versus what I could just give you right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's provisions in the agreement that the county gets the first right of refusal to buy the equipment that we purchased in the contract for fair market value. What we had proposed was take over the lease payments. That's not the way the contract's written, so you would potentially, if they're interested, have a one-time bump of selling them all of that equipment as well. So, I mean, there's a lot to compute there. So, there's a lot of moving parts, as the chief said.
So I thought in my heart was, I wanted to save fire personnel. My biggest concern was when you go to a service area of 1,388 square miles down to 9, the chances of keeping all of our fire personnel and all their professionalism and their, years of service and all that you learn along the way, we would be in jeopardy. But when you look at this contract, I thought it was pretty more than fair. I thought it was pretty generous. That's in my thought. That's what I was thinking. But a couple of the sticking points that I noticed were when you look at, the citizens and the constituents and the community were a couple, right? When you listen to the people, right? They were staffing levels in San Juan at 3, and the language was 3 on one document, 2 on the other. Folks in North County, I have family and friends in the county. I don't want them to reduce services, right? I don't want a gal to lose her eyesight because she didn't get enough oxygen to her brain at school. I don't want you to have to jump through a window and not know if there's somebody behind you. But so browning out Station 3 was a main sticking point, and I met some of the guys out there. They're pretty amazing, very professional. Another sticking point was the staffing levels. The city manager had explained that modifying staffing levels would be under extreme circumstances. Browning out Station 3 would be only under extreme circumstances. But let's just look at the minimum staffing levels. The minimum staffing levels, if everybody read the documents, and I'm sure everybody in here probably took a look at the documents, is 3 at Station 1, 3 at Station 2, 2 in San Juan, and 2 at Station 3. So it's 3, 3, 2, 2, and a battalion chief. That's the minimum staffing level?
Are you asking for the proposals, what were given to the county in San Juan?
Yeah, the
Or
new contract proposal.
that was what was proposed?
Okay, that's a minimum, that's in dire circumstances, just to
No.
keep us out of the red.
It was proposed as a minimum, so your minimum staffing level for the the airport and for San Juan, the way that the amendments were written, were a minimum of 2.
So that's 11 when you include a battalion chief. How
Correct.
often did we, seeing as how we were doing some subsidizing, whether it be 7,000 under the new agreement or 8,500 or 11,000, how often did we ever operate at that 11 firefighter level, like during the life of this last agreement?
No, I think we need to clarify what this, so I'm getting like a little bit confused about what you're asking, Councilmember Perche, because I think essentially, this is my understanding, and Chief, please correct me, please let me, and if my understanding is not right. My understanding is that what's on the contract is the minimum staffing level. But when you are staffing the firehouses, they staff them the same. Everybody has 3, 3, 3, 3. You can't, like, if the minimum is 2 and somebody's only willing to pay for 2 and that's what they're paying for, if we choose to go 3, then we got to do 3 in each house. Everybody has the same level, and then we absorb those costs. So if we want the standard to be a minimum of 3 at all the firehouses, we have to be able to pay for that. So we wouldn't do like 2 in one, 2 in another, and then 3 and 3, right? Is that right? It would be the same at all of them. We
So-
would staff them the same.
So the contracts allow for a minimum, and to have some stations have different staffing levels. But as I stated here, and I've told the city manager, it's my intention, until I'm directed otherwise, all 4 stations will have 3 people on
They
their
should have
race.
3, yeah. And so I'm thinking that, so again, like I keep going back to the same point over and over. If we are willing, if we want the 3, we have to pay for them. If we are willing to, as a city, to pay for 3, and we want our partners to pay for 3, then they need to be willing to come to the table to pay for that too. So that's I'm just gonna like keep
Well, that's-
reiterating that point.
That was my point. When we went through a training, right, with all staff. And when Chief Golding went through his presentation, he said that what he would like to see and what the firefighters think is absolutely like necessary, we were at 17. That was 4 at each station, plus a battalion chief. And I hear we're getting that new truck, and we're probably gonna need at least another firefighter for that. The staffing level that we have been providing for the last few years has been 13, and the minimum is 11. I was just wondering, how often did we ever get down to 11 from that 13 that we've been operating at? Even though we are subsidizing to get to that 13 number, how often do we ever?
So our standard practice has been to fill every engine with 3 up until now. So only upon rare occasions, somebody gets hurt and has to go off duty, or if we deployed out on a strike team and hire backs. Other than that, we have generally always staffed 3. So if somebody takes a day off, even though it says minimum staffing is 2, we would hire back somebody to backfill behind them. So we generally stay at 3. It's only in extenuating circumstances that we happen to drop down, and those are generally only for a very short duration, a couple hours, or until the morning.
So I really am, clearly more than just all of us in here are watching this. Yeah, okay. So my point is that I really feel like this was a really good deal. I feel like this was a good, attempt at the contract, and I feel like we were offering good service for a good value deal price. Because we were at the staffing level of 13, and the contract stipulated it was 11, even with the language in San Juan Bautista being 3 or 2. So that's all I had.
Okay. Councilmember Morales?
Yes. Thank you. I'm gonna just restate my concerns for those that are new to the situation. So my concern is the safety of our community. Obviously, if San Juan Bautista is also very concerned about the safety of the community and the staffing level, so that our staff don't get hurt. I also want to point out that there is an impact to the department. There's an impact to whether people decide to stay or go, whether they want to choose to be here, and knowing the uncertainty and unpredictability of what might happen in terms of their jobs and their livelihood or their safety. That has an impact to the department. People can choose to stay, people can choose to go. I think we also have to be cognizant of that. I am very concerned about the staffing levels at 0.6. We know what happened in LA with 0.9. If the recommendation is 1.5 to 1.8, we're definitely nowhere near that. The impact in terms of the contract with mutual aid support, either way, if we have CAL FIRE help us, we're going to pay. There's a lot of issues right now for those, and we know from the general plan that we have about anywhere from 55 to 65% of our entire community commutes, whether they commute to Santa Clara or Monterey or elsewhere. A lot of those people are on the road. There's a high probability that they're going to get into a car accident. That is going to be really important. We also live in a high fire and flooding zone, and we've seen that in the last couple of years. We need our first responders to be healthy and available, and we need to have the appropriate staffing to be able to deal with emergencies. We've heard from residents, or I've heard from residents, I've heard from other elected officials and other jurisdictions, the issues that we're having with fire insurance. Being dropped, paying more. Some of the Board of Supervisors in Monterey County said that their fire insurance was dropped, and it doesn't matter how much he pays, he's not going to get any. That just contributes to the issues that our residents are going to have, whether they understand it now or later. When it happens to them, they're going to start looking to us for answers. There is still a cost to the city. Any way you slice it, we're still going to have to pay. We just have to evaluate the cost and what are we going to subtract from the city in order to provide those services. I am also, and I hope my fellow colleagues read the legal opinion from council about the termination language. I'm very concerned that we are not able to terminate this contract unless they stop paying. So if it's an agreement if there's an amendment by mutual agreement, we can say, hey, we want to change the terms, and our partners can say, no, take a hike. That's very concerning, and we're stuck for 3 years. So they could have a significant negative impact to our budget for 3 years without the ability to be able to terminate the contract or successfully negotiate terms to better the conditions on either side. I think overall, I appreciate the city manager's analysis and options. I think as we move forward in terms of looking at those options, that my colleagues on the council also consider having a timeline for completing this. I love the 90-day provision to complete negotiations. We're a small community. We have to work with San Juan. We have to work with the county. We don't have money as a community or resources. The best way we can survive is by pulling our resources together and do the best for each other. Having said that, I think we need to do traditional negotiations, which is here are the terms which we think are best for our community, slide that across the table to our partners and say, here's what we believe we should do for our community, for our staff, for us to be able to address all the issues that we know and see what happens in terms of our partners' response to that negotiated proposal, or to that proposal. And really fully negotiate, having the subject matter experts at the table, which include the fire chief, the cities, the union president, because our staff also need a voice at the table. They are the subject matter experts. We can't play with their lives. We can't play with their families' lives. We can't play with our community's life. This is something where everybody should be at the table to fully express what needs to happen and the consequences. The more minds, the better, and the better the outcome. But we do need to be diligent about the timelines, and I would like to see a token of good faith in a form of monetary contribution to the city so that we can move forward with a fresh start and really focus on a solution that's best for everybody here.
Thank you. Okay, any comments or questions? Are you sure? Okay. Anything else? Okay, so we are going to move into public comment. Yeah.
One quick question, Chief. Thank you. So to the Vice Mayor's point, we've been staffing at 3, but sometimes there's 4.
No.
Is there not?
No.
Like, is there a battalion chief or a fire captain at a station that makes it 4 personnel there?
No, so our staffing levels are 3 per engine, and then there is a battalion chief that runs the shift.
So 2 firefighters and a battalion
No,
chief?
they're on their own vehicle. They
Got it.
oversee the whole entire area.
Okay.
So it's not a 4th person on any apparatus. It is merely the supervisor, basically, of the entire
Got
shift.
it. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go into public comment. Let me just read the blurb. Okay, so the oh wait, no, sorry, I don't have my little blurb here. Sorry. Okay, so I'm just going to remind everybody. So we're going to be at 3 minutes. This is just one item, and I'm going to ask you to make sure that you have your cards up here with the clerk, and then she'll call 2 people at a time, and so just be ready to follow the person before you. I'm just going to ask everybody that has signs to be careful with your signs. If you're putting them up, don't block the people behind you. I was supposed to say that earlier, and I forgot to say that. Thanks. Even the city attorney reminded me. Okay, so let's go ahead and get going with the city comments. Thank you.
Elias
Public
Salinas,
comment.
followed by Joe.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. I want to thank the mayor for the questions that she's been asking today. It looks like you have some meetings and you've been doing a little bit of homework. So I don't know if any of you have ever leased a vehicle, but I'm aware that when you lease a vehicle, at the end of the lease, you have the option to buy it. Not for $1, but for the value of the vehicle at the time. Right now, this contract says that you're willing to sell it. You're willing to sell it for $1, regardless of what the value is. I would suggest you strike that and you put, if you want to sell it, or keep it, but it's going to be at the value that it is at the time and not for $1. It could be worth more, it could be worth less. You don't know. Going back to the table and just renegotiating, take everything off, go back, don't even include the experts. It's unreasonable, and no one can bring any logic to the reason why you had 2 council members and 2 supervisors without any experience whatsoever with running multi-million-dollar businesses, much less running a fire department. You can't ask a question of what it costs to run a fire department if you don't have the experts at the table. You have the city manager, you have the finance person, and you have the fire chief. Those are your experts you need at the table. San Juan Bautista, they were able to have a deal because they had Friels, who happens to be with CAL FIRE, or was with CAL FIRE. So that was their expert, who knows what he was talking about when he was doing his negotiations. Do not let San Benito County fool you that they have no money. San Juan Oaks Development donated the land out there and gave millions of dollars to San Juan Bautista to start a fire department, and they took that money that should have gone to fire safety and they put it into the general fund. That's shame on them, and it's costing you, the city council members, to feel sorry for them that they don't have any money. They mismanaged the money because they put it into the general fund. That's a one-time money coming in, and now they don't know what they're going to do next year for the budget, but it didn't go to the fire department. Now you have Prop 172. It's been asked to do an audit. Where is that money going to? Where has that money gone? Because that money is for public safety. That's for the fire department, that's for the police department, and that's for the sheriff's department. You, the city council, should be asking the county, where is the money from Prop 172 that went directly to the police department and went directly to the fire department? You need to ask questions because the county has money.
Thank you, Ms. Salinas. Next speaker.
Joe, followed by
Can
Suzanne
we,
Ho.
I'm going to really ask everybody to just refrain from clapping. We just need to move on with the speaker and not, let's just keep it kind of quiet in the chamber so that we just have our speaker speak. Thank you.
Good evening, council. It's been a week since I learned about the Monday meeting, maybe a little bit less than a week. I don't remember the exact day, but it was not that long ago. It's not enough time, not enough information. I learn pretty fast. I know I do. And as much as I try to pretend it's not true, when talk about politics, I know I'm smart, but I try to not bring that into this because I want everybody to. I want to give information to other folks. I want it to be about other folks. That's the most important thing as a populist. I feel like that this was rushed, way too fast. Excluding the experts, the people who draw the budgets and who know about firefighting and all that. Those people who, literally the chief of the fire department. I mean, how can you keep him out of the ad hoc committee? I don't understand that decision to keep the chiefs of the Cal Fire Department and the Hollister Fire Department out of the ad hoc committees. And I know that I see it, and I saw it in Chief Goulding's eyes on the Thursday meeting. He's concerned, and I'm smart enough I'm smart enough that if the fire chief looks concerned, I'm concerned. Smart enough to take direction from that. As a constituent, as a resident, and as an American, I want you guys to have a town hall with all relevant officials. I want you guys to create some time put all the relevant officials, the city manager, the fire chiefs, if they so desire, all the relevant officials behind a microphone at a town hall where the people can learn about this. If I haven't learned enough about this, I'm sure a lot of folks haven't either. No way to know for certain, but I'm pretty darn sure. Put the chiefs and the city manager on the ad hoc committee. That's non-negotiable. That's just common sense. And to submit a resolution demanding San Mateo County put the chiefs on their ad hoc committee as well. These are things that we need, that are basic steps. You put your experts on the ad hoc committee. The time for talking about this, for rationalizing, for justifying what's going on here has passed. The outcome of the decision has yet to come, as the decision has not yet been made. If you act tonight, and if there are any adverse outcomes, I promise you this: you cannot talk your way out of the substantive, verifiable evidence of attributable action. The county supervisors will answer for their actions at the ballot box individually. I don't know who among you wish to join them tonight, but if you can, buy yourself some time to explain what you're doing, and as well to give the people time to learn about what you're doing and why you're doing it. I strongly suggest you do so, and to put the experts on the ad hoc committees and at behind the microphones at the town halls. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Next speaker.
Suzanne Howe, followed by Fallon Gray.
Thank you. For the record, that's Howard. So I haven't spoken for the city council in a long time. The last time I did was for this reason, saving our city, our county, and our firefighters. So I'm sad that I have to be here again less than 10 years later, feeling like I need to talk about this. And I'm just going to ask, what in God's name makes it okay for you to put the lives of our firefighters and those of our loved ones and neighbors on the line for the sake of money? Cities and counties are non-profit government entities, and taxpayers give money to these entities to aggregate and allocate, not to hoard it or to get in pissing matches over how we're going to use it. Taxpayer money is meant to be spent on the taxpayers. We, the taxpayers of the city and county, want you to spend the money taking care of us and our firefighters. I'm in education, and when we have to make cuts in education, we say as far from students as possible. Anything that needs to be done, any cuts that you brought up when we talk about budget for next year, as far from public safety as possible. So secondly, I echo my son, Joe. Why are those people in charge of fire departments being left out of these committees? And I appreciate that one option D that has more people involved in that decision making, and what Councilwoman Morales said. But why would experts be excluded except for what can only be construed as suspicious reasons? Why? So I'm asking that you start over with the proper financial officers, experts in the field, labor leaders, and impartial observers.
Thank you, Ms. Howard. Next speaker.
Fallon Gray, followed by Mia Casey.
Good evening, council members. My name is Fallon Gregg. I'm here tonight to support Mayor Stevens and the council. Last November, they were overwhelmingly elected to reverse the damages inflicted by previous councils. Financial mismanagement and lack of oversight over several years have left Hollister in dire financial hardship. The lack of appropriate impact fees from developers and a financially burdensome contract with Firefighters Union has put a severe strain on the city's budget. Mayor Stevens and the new city council have been eager to work collaboratively with the Board of Supervisors to resolve the contract issues to everyone's satisfaction. However, the city is not in a position to continue to subsidize a third fireman position with San Juan Bautista or the county. They will need to come to an agreement together before the city can continue to work on negotiations. Mayor Stevens and council are to be commended in their effort to work with both the Board of Supervisors and San Juan Bautista. In tough financial times, everyone needs to be willing to work together, tighten their belts, and make sacrifices for the good of the communities and the county. Mayor Stevens and council members are doing exactly what they were elected to do, make the hard and often unpopular decisions needed to maintain the financial health of the city. I have full confidence Mayor Stevens and council will continue to work collaboratively with all parties and a viable solution can be reached. Please continue doing what you're doing. I applaud you all.
Thank you, Ms. Gregg. Next speaker.
Mia Casey, followed by John Casey.
Good evening. I feel cheated because last time you made me do this in a minute and a half, and now I wrote a minute and a half speech and I got 3 minutes. So
I welcome you to do either. Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
First, thank you. I'm encouraged by hearing the discussion now, but it's a little confusing to me when you've been negotiating for 3 months that now we're having this dialogue, but it is encouraging, so thank you for that. The city manager and fire chief, they showed you that we're subsidizing the county by nearly $4 million. And Councilmember Resendez, we all remember that you pushed the termination clause forward last May, and you said enough is enough, the county needs to pay its fair share. So we're paying $4 million, but this contract you've brought out is for like $1.1 million that they're gonna bring forward. What about that other $3 million? It's really not responsible, and it's not helping the taxpayers. And like what other folks have said, I appreciate you wanting to do the work, but you're not contract negotiators. So why lock out the city manager and our fire chief? They're our experts. So these 3 months, you could have been working with them. Why was San Juan Bautista not included? And it just feels like, why the secrecy and why the backroom deals? That's how it feels. Now the county wants brownouts off the table, and frankly, I applaud that. We don't want to be cutting down on our services. But one thing that bothers me is that means the city has to keep that place open for 24 hours a day. And the county didn't actually offer more money for the county service increase they're going to be getting. So that's a question you might want to be asking. If they want the brownouts off the table, shouldn't they be ponying up a little more because it's going to cost more to keep that running? Also, their insistence on 2 firefighters per truck, and because they don't want to fund a third, even though it's been clearly shown that it's unsafe to have 2 firefighters on a truck. And it also impacts our ability to respond. It slows down service. So this is serious. People will lose their lives. Firefighters are put in jeopardy. Homes are at risk. And as Councilmember Morales said, fire insurance is an issue. So I'm going to urge you to reject this contract tonight and do what everyone is saying. Go back to the table. Bring San Juan Bautista, our city manager, our fire chief, and anyone else that can help the situation. And really do the right thing by Hollister residents. Don't make us pay anymore. We've paid long enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Casey. Next speaker.
John Casey, followed by Alice.
Good evening, Mayor Stevens and City Council. In 2018, Ignacio Velasquez foresaw financial strain once the SAFER grant ended. He voted no on this current 2019 contract. A fire district is probably not the answer, as citizens believe we're already paying too much in taxes. We must now prioritize public safety dollars across the county, similar to our approach in the city. 70% of what we spend is on public safety, and the county is way, way below that. We need a full accounting of the Prop 172 funds to ensure transparency and effective allocation. The county's removal of the brownout provision without additional monetary support impacts on those fire services. The city is considering a 10% budget reduction across all services. For fire services, I propose the county that they make up that 10%, or whatever right number is to say that, this will increase our revenue without reducing expenses. Additionally, we should implement a county parity increase over the next few years, which would give the county the time to manage their budget to align with the public safety priorities, like what San Juan Bautista did with their 11%. I can slow down because I have 3 minutes when I did this in a minute. Excuse me. The contract should also specify 3 firefighters per truck to ensure efficient and safe resource use. Multiple stations being deployed is not efficient. We heard one of the talks about, when there's two people on a truck and the truck goes out, they've got to bring another truck in to have that third person, which ends up being 4 persons and 2 trucks. I remember that the fire chief talking about that. When you provide a service, you should get paid for that service. So again, I agree. Please take this back and bring in the experts to negotiate a true and fair and safe contract. including not giving away our equipment. I don't know exactly how we thought that doing the lease thing was a good idea, especially when we're going to continue to operate the equipment. I think that's a bit bizarre. Together, we can prioritize the safety and well-being of our community and our firefighters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. Next speaker?
Alice, followed by Catherine Sanchez.
Good evening. I also am very encouraged at the fact that you guys are considering thinking about this. It's been pretty scary, actually, thinking about it. I know, Mr. Resendez, you talked about your family, your mom having a stroke, and how important these guys were to you. And you know, my mother-in-law had the same. So these guys, to me, are heroes, and I want them here. We all need them, and I think everybody in this room knows that. So I also, along with everyone else, am asking, please go back to the table, get everyone involved, take all your options, as well as the budget. I don't know your budget, I don't know how things are allocated, but consider taking some things off the table. You know, for example, the entertainment. Do we really need that? I think we need firefighters more, my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker?
Catherine Sanchez, followed by James Connor.
My name is Catherine Sanchez. I'm a Hollister resident, and I support the council and the mayor in the negotiations. I live within the city limits, and I want the council to hold together and get this agreement across the finish line. I support what you're doing because it's important. The agreement is for all the residents throughout the county of San Benito. A fire can happen anywhere and affect all my neighbors. It is not going to matter where our property is located in San Benito County. We are not a business. We are public service. I say we because I feel I am in this with you, because you are elected to represent me. And I urge you to continue. Time is of the essence. I saw that in the contract. There's a lot of words, of 40 pages, but I did read that. Time is of the essence. And I understand it's a negotiation. And to me, that means you're making difficult choices on behalf of the residents that elected you. And I urge you not to pull back, but instead to keep working to get this done. And don't let this agreement automatically renew without an amendment. There's a lot of folks involved. There's a lot of years of experience, and I believe truly that the people are bringing their best thinking to get this agreement done. In the action you take tonight, I've asked that you give the staff direction to keep a focus on priority of neighbor safety everywhere, best use of limited dollars, because the cupboard is going to go bare, as I keep hearing, and persuading stakeholders that they always keep in mind it's a negotiation, it's not an extortion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. Next speaker?
James Connor, followed by Heidi Connor.
Hello, and thank you for having me, everyone but Roland. My name is James Connor, and I'm a former U.S. Coast Guard rescue swimmer stationed in San Francisco, and I've also started a couple of global security companies. And I have a vast experience in my early years with search and rescue. And I was just talking to the chief about this. 3 is great, okay? But 4 is actually the OSHA standard. 2 in, 2 out. If you have 2 people at your house, you can't send 2 firefighters in with a respirator to rescue a baby without 2 people outside. So 3 is not enough, okay? So I encourage you, this is why you guys should not be sitting in a room with experts. I do a lot of very technical global things. I do not, and I know a lot, okay? I have a patent in AI. I still bring in experts. And I can't imagine any of you guys doing this, except you, sitting around making decisions without experts, okay? So I encourage you to get the experts and listen, and you could ChatGPT this, by the way, okay? It's not that difficult. to figure out what the OSHA regulations are, okay, and to have this be a safe community. I come from a reservation in Montana. You know, I'm lucky because less than 1% people, you know, my people come out of reservation, okay? But I could afford to live in Palo Alto, but I don't. There's a lot of people here who can't, okay? So I expect you guys to do the right thing and fund these firefighters. Because if these firefighters go into something and anybody dies or they die, believe me, you could be held accountable, okay? You have a lot of protection, but you don't have protection against willful negligence. And I will submit to you right now because I will personally sue each one of you if anybody dies because of your decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Next speaker.
Heidi Connor, followed by Jeannie Wallace.
Good evening. I'm not as fiery as my husband. I was going to speak about something else, but I was traveling on 25 today and stopped just before the roundabout because there was quite an accident going on. And as I got closer, I could see the trucks that say Hollister Fire and Rescue. It's not just fire, but it's rescue too. Floods, you're trapped in a building, you're stranded somewhere, you're in a terrible accident and you need the jaws of life to get you out of the car. That's where these guys, that's what they're doing. And it's a hard job. And I can't imagine that we wouldn't staff it. Well, I think Hollister and Mr. Maroney have done an excellent job at staffing and money to make sure that we are safe. The county is not being a partner. The county does have money through Prop 172 and other areas, and they need to come to the table. Thank you, Mayor Stevens, for questioning, and also Councilman Picha, for questioning the gap. And now that it seems to be very well illustrated, this gap of money, you need to go back to the county and say, we need to have more because 2 people is not enough. And our community is precious. Our community is deserving the fire services and the rescue services that we are given with these gentlemen back here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Connor. Next speaker.
Jeannie Wallace, followed by Terry Clark.
Good evening, council members and Mayor Stevens. Perhaps all of this has come about from good intentions, but meetings to negotiate contracts of this importance should not take place without the inclusion of the fire chief and other firefighter representatives who have expertise regarding the services they provide, and without the inclusion of the city manager and others with expertise regarding the city budget. This is not a good contract. It's not good for the city. It's not good for the residents, and it's not good for our firefighters, to whom we should at least show the respect to include in the actual negotiations. There is no urgent timeline here. Please demonstrate the concern you owe Hollister residents and the respect you owe city staff and our firefighters by pausing this decision so that you can engage in a more thoughtful and responsible process that includes them. I don't know how you can look out on the firefighters in this room tonight and do anything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Next speaker.
Terry Clark, followed by Samuel Ramos.
Okay, last Tuesday, I had a little bet and I lost, so I'm gonna try to stay calm and not cuss.
You're good.
Okay?
You're
Didn't work
good.
out too good last night. I lost money to my daughter. Okay, first question is, that really grinds me, is fire impact studies. What are those? Why are we doing fire impact studies? Those cost thousands of dollars. You got hills, you got trees, you got brush. What's there to study? And there's thousands of dollars spent on studies, okay? That's one problem. You guys could cut a whole lot of other programs that we probably don't need in this city. I kind of agree with Morales over there that you guys do got to get with the county. The county's got to start paying their fair share too. So the fires, the fire department, the county, CAL FIRE, and the police, I mean, they're here to keep us safe. They're here to protect us, take care of us, no matter what it is. And I mean, if you guys can't handle it, or if the county can't handle it, I got a good, I got a good, drawing a blank. I got a I can solve that.
Okay.
Why don't we privatize this? Because if we privatize this, we'll put the money in our hands, and we could put it out. We'll pay the firemen. They'll probably get a bigger raise, and we'll take care of it, and we'll make money off our interest. Because there's a lot of money spent that shouldn't be spent in a lot of programs. I'm losing my train of thought. Damn it. Okay, well, basically, I mean, a lot of government gets in the way, whether it's at the Fed level, state level, or city or county. You guys get paid through us, you work for us, and the bottom line is you need to take care of our firefighters. Because government always seems to screw up stuff whenever they get their hands involved in it. The other thing, I think my last note is, and this might disrupt some people in this courtroom. I personally don't care. I mean, not courtroom, excuse me, city hall. This only happens in blue states. It ain't happening in any red states. That guy's from Montana. Where's he at? Or did he leave? I got family all through Montana, all through Idaho. The fire and police, sure in the hell, sure, they always get paid. There's no problem. It's only California. Tampon Tim over there in Minnesota, he's $500 million under budget because he let his city burn. Okay? It's not happening anywhere else but in states like this. Let's take care of these guys. They deserve it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Clark. Next speaker.
Samuel Ramos, followed by Carol Lenore.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
City Council. I am Samuel Ramos, and I'm an elder man. I mean, I've been here for 50 years, and I've got my credentials. And I'm not coming here to point fingers or to tell people how to do their job. And I think I really like what I've heard from some of the people that that they come in trying to advise, and that's good, your intentions. But one of the main things that I'm here for is to speak for our mayor, and I can guarantee you that our mayor has integrity, and so I campaign for her. So you can rest assured that this group will do the right thing, and you come in with your advice, and they will hear you, and we're not. I don't think any of these people are down on the firefighters, and some of the media has brought up some stuff that's not nice, I mean, the divide and conquer, come on. We're supposed to be working together. Yeah. So, I can assure you that because we have Stevens as the mayor, we will come through this thing, and we will do well with her group. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos. Thank you.
Carol Lenore,
speaker.
followed by Leslie Jordan.
Okay, I'm doing much better at this meeting than I did the board. Probably owe Colin an apology, but I wasn't doing any more than the rest of the folks. I said tonight I would be quiet though, so I am. Look, I just would really like you to, and the same thing that they said, just roll it back a bit and do those negotiations. When Marty Richmond and I did the last tax sharing agreement, we had the city manager and the CAO in there in the ad hoc committee. We knew we had to have them. The Measure E Oversight Committee that I served on for 5 years, well, we knew the finance director had to be in there because he knows all about the finances. So I just wanted to ask maybe the city manager if you could run down some numbers for Measure W. I'm having a hard time that the city's in such dire straits, considering how hard we all worked on the Measure W and the commercial center over there that I know is bringing in sales tax at a very high rate at 9.25. Something's wrong here. We should not be broke. But if we are broke, it's my opinion, I've watched the last 2 years the city rehire executive management, and boy, we needed it, but it costs a lot of money. I know your salary's up, and I'm not talking public safety. You have a lot of people you had to replace. People retire, you hire new ones. You had so many vacancies of department heads, and now you have the people here, which I really like. Costs money though. So I just want you to start over and look, I want to like you, but you're too close to Ignacio, and I do not like him. Okay, so that's a strike for you against me. I just want you to fight for us, the city, and yes, work for the county. Did you know I worked for the county 10 years before I came to the city? And I grew up on a large cattle ranch, so I know a lot about South County. But just do us fair. I'd like to see obviously the chief and the city managers and the CAO acting in the county in there. You need the money people in there so you do know what you can do. You don't know what you can do. You got to have those folks in there. I couldn't even tell you. I always listen to the people that know. Really do. You pay them, so use them. Then also 2 on a fire engine. So I was at the meeting, I told the fireman, 2 on a fire engine, was that the driver and 2 guys? He said, no, it's 2 guys. I said, how's that work? I go, he goes, we roll up, and one guy runs off to, I guess, check it out. And I said, and what's the other guy doing? Well, I go, who's getting the hoses out? He goes, the other guy's getting the hoses out. And then he goes and fights the fire, and the other guy's got to run the pump. 2 people, no good. I like to see 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Honor. Next speaker?
Leslie Jordan, followed by Kevin Barcelos.
Mayor Stevens, Council,
Mayor.
thank you for the opportunity. The City of San Juan Bautista City Council negotiated in good faith last year with the former council. On March 18th, we asked to be part of the negotiations. City Manager, I appreciate the entire roadshow that you have gone through the last week and a half. Thank you for bringing all of the options forward. We, the city, appreciate that. We ask that y'all come back, bring us back to the table. Councilmember Morales, thanks for reiterating your points, valid points that I think everybody should heed. The City of San Juan Bautista is just asking that we be allowed back to the negotiations with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Next speaker?
Kevin Barcelos, followed by Maureen Nelson. Kevin Barcelos. Maureen Nelson, followed by Bridget Bowman-Thorpe.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. I just lost my extra 3 minutes to jot down what I was going to say, but here we go. Thank you for this opportunity. I have the great pleasure of living on a street with 9 first responders, whether they be in the fire department, whether they be on 9/11. I have 9 within a span of 8 houses. So I speak with love to those that are taking the call. I think we need to bring all stakeholders to the table, the city, the county, San Juan Bautista, the fire department. Bring all stakeholders. Everybody should have a voice because everybody is responsible. They're responsible for their duties. They're responsible for their representation. They are responsible not only to you, but they're responsible to every citizen within San Juan Bautista County. So that's number 1. I'm a little confused on how we're separating our costs. And I'm also a little confused, and I say this honestly, I don't understand, I don't know all the facts, but we talked about earlier that we had approximately 1,400 miles of land in San Juan Bautista, not San Juan Bautista, San Benito County. Are we, as a city and a county, responsible for all of the open space that isn't inhabited
by humans? Or is that not CAL FIRE? I'm a little confused there, but that's my problem because I'm not educated in that in particular. I think we got to look at the structure of separation based on population. I'm a little upset with my own home builder, I'll be honest. I didn't know everything when I bought my house, but I happen to live in Santana Ranch. I think that Santana Ranch builders needed to charge the full building fees to pay for services provided to their residents, and that wasn't done. They got a special deal. Special deals are off the table. We're living in tight times. Every penny counts. We don't give priority. We don't give favors. We go by the rules. And if the rules state that the fees are X per acreage, per lot size, per however it is, those are the fees so that everybody can base it accordingly. There's no favoritism. There's no bias. It's all clear and simple. So that was where I wanted to go with this. And I just think that we really need to take a look at how we're presenting ourselves, how we're negotiating, and we do need fire and we need safety. So thank you very much for your assistance.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Next speaker.
Bridget Bowman Thorpe, followed by Valerie Harmson.
Hi, good evening. My name is Bridget Bowman-Thorpe. Thank you for your service. I know you have been elected only for 3 months, and you inherited a reduced budget. You know, we heard from the city manager that you had to cut 10% of your budget, your city budget, and that's really a tough start. You know, to take over a city that had been mismanaged. In my opinion, you know. So I moved here 8 years ago, and I just seen how rapid this city and this county grows. Everywhere you go, you see new developments. Right now, we're building Willow Landing, we're building KB Home. Those homes are $700,000, $800,000. And I'm asking myself, where is the money coming to the city from this development? Those are not cheap homes. I mean, I literally just checked one new model home. I was like, where are the impact fees? The city and the county should be rich, flush of money from all these developments. You know, I'm asking myself, what happened here? Something went just awfully wrong, you know. I mean, where are the impact fees? I feel like now you're feeling the pain right now from this mismanagement, giving away reduced impact fees from prior city council and county supervisors. It's really unbelievable. Exactly, where is the money from all these new houses? San Juan Oaks, I mean, that's county. Santana Ranch, 1,100 homes. County should have money, city should have money by now to pay for firefighters, so we don't have to argue over if you can staff a fire station. That should have been not even happening, but you are in a bad position right now because of past horrible mistakes. That's my opinion. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, Ms. Thorpe. Next speaker.
Valerie Harmson, followed by Marie Schockhorn.
Hi, good evening. I'm Valerie Harmson. I don't really understand people talking about our firefighters like, you know, nobody in this room, nobody in this county does not respect these men. They have a hard job. They take good care of us. We should pay them. Yes, we should do whatever we can for them. But if we don't have the money, we have to use more resources and understanding. We've got a new mayor who's been here less than 3 months, and I've seen on social media people calling for her recall and supervisors recall. What are you talking about? This person cares about this city. These people are up there because they care about our city. We should respect that and know that they're trying to do the very best they can for everybody in this room, everybody in this city, and everybody in this county. And the problem we have is that we've got ongoing people who did not actually win elections, going on social media, attacking, and how they would do it so much better. And I heard her just, I'm sorry, Mia, come up here and say there should be an accounting, some type of accounting on 10-something. Well,
Okay,
you
Ms.
talked about-
Ms. Harmson,
you talked
Ms.
about
Harmson,
Ignacio, so
Ms.
you know what?
Ms. Harmson?
Just stop.
Can you, I mean, just.
Well, you
just
know,
give
honestly,
it's okay, yeah,
it's
yeah,
okay
yeah,
for them
talk-
to say, talk about Ignacio anytime they want.
Yeah.
That's the
It's
problem here.
yeah.
I think
Sorry.
we really need to respect this city council, our board of supervisors. We voted them in. We want them to do their job, and we want them protecting our county and our city with good fire service. They're talking about putting in 4 people. There's not enough people. Who's going to pay for this? I think we should definitely try to keep 3, but 4, I mean, we don't have the money. We don't have the resources. So we have to work very diligently to make sure we keep on all these firefighters. They deserve it. They work hard for our city. They work hard for our county. And move forward and stop, you know, all this backbiting stuff. It's got to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harmson. Okay, next speaker,
Mary Shaw Coran.
is she on Zoom? On Zoom, okay.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to thank, first of all, the City Council and the Mayor for trying to negotiate something that would be workable for the county, that is a fire protection plan and agreement, and also with San Juan Bautista. And as a member, or as a resident, longtime resident, almost 40 years now, I guess, of the area that's near San Juan Bautista's fire station, I was really disappointed that the city of San Juan Bautista voted against accepting an agreement. I thought, you know, it sounds like a pretty good deal. The city of Hollister is actually subsidizing quite a bit, not as much as perhaps before. And I'm disappointed that the city of San Juan Bautista did not accept it as a resident that would be affected by that decision, since I'm near that firehouse. So anyway, so I encourage the city to try to work with other parties. I know it's difficult, and maybe you have to get the other parties to collaborate and figure out something themselves, since they're not willing to accept a pretty good deal. I know that the finances of Hollister are really challenged right now because it's having to cut 10%, and you know it's really a problem. The financial problem's been inherited from the mismanagement by the past city council. And I had a question, which is it possible to renegotiate some of the things, as some previous speakers have mentioned? There were some agreements with developers who made very lucrative deals. I remember in almost a year ago, March 2024, the Hollister Mayor and City Council approved I think it was $25 million discount on maintenance fees. These are like impact fees for Eden Housing. And I was there, and a number of other people were there to protest that discount. It would have provided a lot of money to the coffers of the city for fire and police service for 55 years, as well as road maintenance. And unfortunately, the past mayor and city council approved that discount. Is it possible to renegotiate things like that? Those are the kinds of ongoing sort of loss to the fire and police budget. That's for 55 years. So my question is it possible to review some of these impact fees that were negotiated by past city councils to bring more revenue to Hollister City? So that's my question. And I hope that in the future, the city will be more cautious in its negotiation.
Thank you, Miss Shaw Cohen. Next speaker?
We have no more speakers, ma'am.
Okay. Thanks for everybody's comments. I'm going to close comments. I'm going to close public comment session now. So let's come back and any other comments, questions? Does somebody want to entertain a motion? Any more discussion?
Mayor, this item is for direction. Yeah, a motion isn't necessary.
No motion. Okay, direction. Thank you. Thank you for that, clerk. I thought we were going to vote on an option, so thanks for clarifying that. Councilmember Resendez?
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. So I just have a couple of final thoughts after hearing everybody speak. I'm not prepared to go over options yet, but I'm willing to entertain it when my colleagues are. So again, just to recap from everybody, thank you again to all the public members that came out here. Thank you to our staff for coming out here. Thank you, City Manager. I know you've been working really hard on this, and I appreciate that. So again, we are having a budget issues, right? And this council inherited those issues. And thank you to the last speaker for reminding me that yes, the previous council gave a huge $25 million plus discount that came out of the CFD funds that is supposed to go to fire. That's going to impact us later on down the line as well, right? So we have to, let's be realistic about those things. Number two, I heard from multiple speakers up here that we need to work together. They're optimistic that we're going to work together. I think I said that at the last meeting that when Vice Mayor was talking about what his vision for our city and for the firefighters were, to please believe in that vision, work with us, sit down at the table with us so we can have those conversations. And then we have to remember that, yeah, everybody has to pay their fair share. Everybody's talking about the counties not paying their fair share. The county's not paying their fair share. Don't forget, San Juan Bautista rejected the proposal, all 5 council members, and insulted our staff with profanity. Two council members did that. The county actually passed the contract. The county actually passed the contract with a 3-2 vote. Sorry, am I saying that correctly?
They approved the amendment with a 3-2 vote with the request for this council to consider the removal of the brownout provision.
Thank you. So let's keep the facts straight. Let's not try to spin things. Let's stop with the division of the community and stop trying to, frankly, okay, I'm not going to go there. Thank you. All right, thanks for that reminder.
Thank you.
One more quick thing, Mayor Stevens. We have an obligation as city council members here to not only ensure the safety of our residents, but to be fiscally responsible about that too. So I'm optimistic by what I'm hearing here. I like all of the different options here. I've got questions about like one of them, but yeah, let's get to work. Thank you guys for coming, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Comments or questions?
Yeah, I just have some quick comments. Okay. So it's been a busy week. We've heard a lot from the community. There are a lot of concerns, right? There are a lot of concerns. Heck, on Monday, I asked a silly question, and all you guys were like, come on, man, we're busy all the time. There's no off season for fire. It might peak in the summer, but it's not like in the winter we're not responding to calls for a wrecked vehicle or something on San Felipe or 25. And I felt sheepish about that. I'm like, man, I felt like a silly thing to even ask or say. But I called the captain, Josh Pacetta, out at Station 2, and I asked him if I could just stop by, talk to some of the firefighters. A few of them are here today. And it was super eye-opening. I mean, they have a room in that facility that doesn't get any use. Every other room in Station 2 gets use. You know what the room that gets no use? It has a TV in it, and it has like 5 chairs that no one ever sits in, and a TV no one ever watches. Every other room in that facility is used for sleeping, washing clothes, working out to stay fit. I mean, there's literally no downtime. I was there Wednesday. I was there for probably like 3.5 hours. We went on a couple of calls. In that time frame, we got to visit Station 3 and speak to some of the firefighters out at Station 3. But there's very little downtime. These guys are busy all the time. Calls are going off, and my hat's off. I literally thought that they use that room the most with all the chairs and the TV, but they don't use it hardly at all. if ever. I'm really concerned about the numbers. I'm really concerned about that 0.6. LA being at 0.98. I'm concerned about, I watched all the meetings from San Juan Bautista. I watched it on Zoom. It was in arrears. I attended the other one with the county, last one on Thursday at 9 a.m. Watched the whole thing, and people are concerned. They're concerned about losing their fire insurance. I'm concerned about that little girl I heard about at school, and she lost her vision because she lost oxygen to her brain. There's this golden hour. It was just golden minutes. And luckily her life was saved because of the brave actions of our firefighters. But that's a real human toll and a human consequence. So I mirror what a lot of the community is saying. We've got some smart people. Let's bring them to the table. Chief should be involved in negotiations. San Juan Bautista wants more representation. The city manager should be at negotiations. We've got some options before us. I'm looking at a couple of them look pretty good. My concern is if we do modify these staffing levels to the minimum of 11 to where we've been operating at 13, if we go even below that, losing the mutual aid or auto aid agreements, we need to work together and we need to offer aid if we can, when asked. And there are going to be times that we need that aid and we need to be able to hold up our end of the bargain. But it was really eye-opening spending time with our fire personnel and just seeing the great work that they do, and I was really honored to be there. I also want to commend the ad hoc committee for doing great work both on the county and the city side. I feel like really good work has been done there. And we can just move forward with the city of San Juan Bautista, the county of San Benito, and the city. So we don't have to work backwards, but we can build upon the hard work that's already been done and polish this agreement and make it something we can all have confidence in, we can all believe in, and we can all just be really appreciative of the hard work that our firefighters are doing and will continue to do. And the last thing I want is, Council Member Morales said, depending on how we handle this thing, we might have fire personnel looking for work elsewhere, and that's the absolute last thing that I want. Seeing how hard they work, that's the last thing I want. But it's a very anxious time, and I have a feeling that if we take the time, we can get it right.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilmember Morales.
Yes, I appreciate option E, which would require a minimum of 3. Ideally, it would be 4, but I think to have terms that would have a minimum protection for our staff and our community, for the city to prepare a set of proposed terms to treat the county and San Juan Bautista as a partner, to have a comprehensive price and set of terms, the terms prepared in partnership with the Hollister Fire Negotiations Ad Hoc Committee, the fire chief, the fire union president, and city management, the county of San Benito and San Juan Bautista to work together to develop a partnership to meet proposed terms. Each agency to provide the city of Hollister with one-time payment for fiscal year 24-25 within 30 days as a token of good faith, and compensate the city of Hollister for financial impacts during the negotiation process. I also would like to see that we work diligently and have the inclusion of a 90-day provision to complete negotiations, potentially retroactivity for compensation, and then and that would be my ask and recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Morales. Go ahead, Councilmember
Thank you.
Resendez.
Thank you so much. I had a question, Mr. City Manager. To Councilmember Morales' point, what's the difference between retroactivity for compensation and then the one-time payments? Is the one-time payments already in option E?
So that's what we'd be looking for direction on. So depending on the time frame, you could say it's essentially one or the other. If you're going back and it's something quick, do we look at retro? If you look at the timing on this, within, you're saying within 90 days, we're into the next fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, if you're close and it's within the fiscal year, do we look at retroactivity? Or if we roll into the next year, let's say it's close in July, something to that extent, then you're basically budgeting the new amount with a retro payment for the past, right? Because we're so close to the fiscal year, it's potato, but at the end of the day, it all kind of depends on timing. So I guess, we would look at, do you want retroactivity when we build it? The other piece, as it's written here, is do you say, to even start this, you need to pay us, you need to pay us. We just went a whole year, and the whole reason you did the 270 in the first place, or the group before, was that negotiations were stalling out. There were requests to meet and move forward. There was, let's look at a fire district. At that time, the study was just beginning and starting, and that work was just starting. That wouldn't have made this next election. So you were looking at 3 years. So let's talk about truing up in 3 years, right? And we're about a year and a half into that conversation. So I get it. There's a lot of emotion in the room. There's a lot of folks that have spoken tonight. At the end of the day, that's been a very beneficial strategy, quite honestly. Let's talk about that later. Well, we're a year and a half into that.
So that's to my point. Which option says that, or which language? I want to be very specific about that. Like you just said, right? I'm not going to say we wasted, because we're working through it. We learned it's negotiations, right? But I'm not willing to keep fitting the bill, or subsidizing is the favorite word we're using tonight, for the county or for San Juan until they pay us what they owe us.
So that would be option E. I did hear the 90 days to the table.
Okay.
I did not hear if you wanted to also include the 270-day
Yes,
provision.
Absolutely.
With the 90
for
days.
both the city and the county.
So what that idea is that you would have a 270 and say, we're reaching terms by day 90. And that's something that you can discuss further. But by day 90, for example, you're getting there, right? Because otherwise, you create other issues with a 270 if you reach a deal on day 265. That's not fair to our employees who are then, at day 240. I mean, come on, what are you going to do? You're going to say, I'm out, or I'm going to start polishing up my resume. And I think that we need to be mindful through this whole process of the staff, right? We've heard about 3, we've heard about safety, we've heard about, time frames. All of that matters when that's how you're feeding your family. And so that's where that provision is of, let's not wind this all the way out to 270 if that's the route you're going. Let's get it done.
Perfect. So if I'm hearing this correctly, and again, I'm prepared to make a motion, but I want to hear from my colleagues.
We don't need
Option
a motion,
E,
we just need direction.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you, Mayor Stevens. Option E includes the language that you need to pay up before we entertain moving forward. What Councilmember Morales stipulated to was the 90-day provision to put a hard stop to negotiations. And then the 270 is to protect the city, to protect the city's interests in case they keep kicking the can down the road, so to speak, right? And we have a hard stop in the month of December, I would imagine, right?
The 270, you would be going back. Our next meeting would be April 7th. So if you went this route, then what this would look like is we would come back on April 7th, or if directed to come back sooner, and present to you the 270, just like we did the last time. In that time, we would work with the group that's presented here before you to do not only the comprehensive price and set of terms, but also that one-time payment amount, and present that for you for discussion, and then that's where you would have the motion and approval. So we would bring those terms back to you. That would be done in partnership with the whole group. And then that would be the next step, is you would vote on it, and then we would present that to the county and San Juan as one partner, and then they can work together to figure out how they would partner on that, and then we would negotiate with that group.
And if I can, Mayor Stevens, and then
Sure.
I'll stop. I know I'm talking quite a bit. The rationale is to put in some provisions that are going to protect the city of Hollister, the residents and the taxpayers, and to take us out of the equation of making the county and San Juan they need to negotiate their own terms. Let us know. And it's also putting timelines to those provisions so that you can negotiate the terms, and then you come up come back to us when you're ready as a united front. That's my reasoning behind.
Yes, think
that.
about it as if, I'm going to use easy numbers. It's $100. Whether they decide it's 80-20, 75-25, we're saying this is the cost, this is what we need, these are the terms, this is what we need to make this work. And then that becomes your point of negotiations.
Okay.
And we
Yeah.
would do that in partnership with the group that you see up there.
Okay, yeah, thank you, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way too, and I think, I mean, that would be my hope, and Mayor, I mean, let me know how I can help in doing some of this, because I think it's gonna be really important. I mean, I really think that if we can get, because I mean, that was really the sticking point. The sticking point is all three of us have to agree on all of this, and if two don't and one wants to, I mean, it's just not gonna work. So it's just really an effort to do that, but the two we're the contractees have to agree. If you guys don't agree, then we're going to be back here again, right? So that'd be great. So let me know what I can do to help in that, and that's it. Okay. Also, I just want to, I don't know if Mr. Clark is still here, but the idea of like privatization, I see, like, I think maybe what the idea of that is a model that helps us to be more cost effective and put the decisions around how to spend the money and when to grow more money or when we need to cut back in the hands of the people. That is what I'm learning describes a fire district. And we've been having conversations about that, and it's interesting that it's kind of coming together that may be how we want to go in the future. And just as a heads up, as an FYI to everyone, we will be talking about this a lot. We, the City Council, Board of Supervisors, we hope that the San Juan Bautista will. I've already spoken to the fire union and the president of the fire union, fire chief. They want to be in conversation about this. They think it might be a good idea. We have to come up with kind of what might look like. But the idea is the decisions around when we have to ask for more money, how we spend our money, can fall on the hands of the people, or at least those within the fire district, and it kind of takes it out of city and county government's hands. So then we don't have to be back here, because we will be back here in 3 years again, or less. We will. There's just no doubt about that. So we have to start to prepare for how do we not get ourselves into this spot again. We have been in this spot. Okay, this is what I'm hearing historically. 3 years ago we were doing this. 3 years before that we were doing this. And we have to get out of this cycle. So let this be the last time that we're in this stage, and let's work together to figure out what that model is for the district, so that when we put it out there to the voters, they can approve it. And then it'll be out of our hands. We won't be back here again in 3 years. That's the hope. But there's going to be a lot more information to come, hopefully, around that, and there'll be a lot of discussions about what that might look like and a lot more to learn about that. But I just want everybody to know that we will be back here in 3 years if we don't figure out a way to get us out of being contractors and others being contractees and having those kind of partnership. We will be right back here again. So I'm hoping that we can move in that direction. And yeah, I think we're ready to move on with some direction. Okay, so.
Mayor, if I may,
Go
just
ahead.
before we jump in, I would just ask with your direction, our next regularly scheduled meeting is April 7th. As I've mentioned before, per the termination clause, that would technically roll over, but you can still issue the 270 or do all of that after. So we wouldn't rush back to have a special to determine that. You're basically acknowledging that that is going to roll forward, if that makes sense.
Okay, wait. Can you say that again, but with the actual dates? Our next next city council meeting date is April 7th. If we issued the 270 at that date officially, then we're okay, or we have passed the deadline?
Yeah, let me explain it a
Okay.
different way.
Okay.
So the way that the contract works, it says it'll roll over to the next, it'll roll over one additional year, and it calls out the dollar amount of the rollover if you don't terminate the contract per the provisions of the contract, which is the 270-day clause. So that date is prior to our next meeting. So when we meet the next time, the contract will have rolled over. That's okay. You can still do anything you want to do, but it's still, I'm just pointing out that I'm not going to come back to have a discussion on that. So we're basically acknowledging that we know the contract is rolling forward, and then you'll be making a decision on April 7th.
So okay, let me go with Councilmember Pichette and then Councilmember Resendez.
So it would
Well-
effectively just lengthen, it would, if we issued the 270, you know, a few days into April, it would effectively just add days to
Correct.
the contract. It wouldn't like we're going 365 days into another year of the old contract.
Correct. So tonight you have a contract that expires December 31st of 2025. Next time we meet, you have a contract that expires December 31st of 2026. You can still do all the same decisions you want to do. I'm just highlighting that.
Wait, can you say that one more
Yeah,
time?
yeah.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, say the dates one more time, just so we get the actual dates.
Okay, so you have a contract that says you have to issue a 270-day to terminate it, okay? And if you don't do it, let me take a step back. What it says is your contract expires December 31st of 2025. To terminate it and not have an option automatically go into effect, which is a one-year option, you have to terminate it per the provisions of the contract, okay? By the time we have the next meeting, that date will have elapsed, which is okay. But you're just having a contract. When we talk next time, you have a contract that goes through December 31st of 2026. That doesn't impact your decisions. I'm just pointing that out as a point of clarity.
Okay, but the 270 days are counted, start counting, we begin to count the 270 days once we issue the 270-day notice.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And we would effectively just be adding a few days.
That is correct.
Okay, all right.
Mayor Stevens.
In my role to not mention you'll have a contract rollover, I have to at least put that out.
So it would be to our best interest to include the 270 so that we can terminate this year and not have it automatically roll over. Because we have that 90-day window, we'll be hopefully done within that 90 days,
Yeah.
and it'll be mute, but it's like insurance.
Yeah,
So we're just
agree.
ensuring that,
Agree.
that added value of making sure that we complete the negotiations in a timely manner. So it sounds like the 270 would be in our best interest to include that tonight.
Yeah, okay.
I 1,000,000% agree. However, we could also have a special on Monday just to end all of this confusion, right? We could have a special on Monday, get a resolution then, and then we would be within the existing contract.
I'll be out of town at a few.
Yeah, you would, it
Just putting
technically,
it out
it
there.
wouldn't add, it really wouldn't make it wouldn't make a difference.
Okay.
Quite honestly.
Okay, so I think we have consensus, and I'm gonna just we're just asking for thumbs up on option E with the considerations of the issuance of the 270, inclusion of the 90-day provision, and that's it. Okay, thumbs up? Okay, thumbs up, yay. All right. Thank you. We hadn't heard the applause for us for a little while. Okay, so we're gonna, let's see, I think we're just gonna move to adjourn, right? Do we have to do anything else? Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Aye, everybody say aye, aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's at 8:39.